explorer Raad on his continuing journey of discovery into life's challenges, opportunities, options, and all the latest and greatest things that come with getting older. The Raad Life is brought to you this week by Your Home for a Lifetime, a company dedicated to empowering you to stay safely, independently, and comfortably in your own home. And now here is your host, Raad.
Mr. Paul Roberts, are you there?
I am. Well, we always start the show like, where in the world is Waldo? Where in the world is Raad?
Let's see, where am I today? Today's Wednesday. Okay.
Today's Wednesday, he has to ask himself.
like it makes a dang difference during COVID, right? Today's Wednesday. I am where I was on Tuesday and will be on Thursday.
Right.
No, I'm actually sitting at the Center Club. I'm going to give a shout out to the Center Club in Costa Mesa, California.
Okay. Wow.
They have a couple of small rooms that are available for members to use. So I actually was running around in the 2 days of rain that we have in Southern California today and decided to tuck in here and basically do the show rather than to drive to South County, which is where I have been sequestered for the better part of the last year.
And can I tell you something rare about today's show? This is really rare. So I just have to point this out.
We all showed up. What's rare?
It really is that you all showed up today, because you're all going to laugh, but we're in Southern California today. If people listen to this later or live somewhere else, and it's raining today. And we have already had 2 shows in a row, the guests canceled. And they're not even coming into our studio here at UC Irvine.
That's crazy.
Okay,
I understand.
They canceled because it's raining.
They canceled from home?
They canceled from home. That's a first. When I first moved to California, I'll just tell you real quickly, in the 80s, I came from the Midwest. We would go through hail and snow, 10 feet snowstorms. And nothing kept us from going up.
School,
everywhere, 80 miles. And I came to California. I had a job somewhere. I was in the entertainment industry. I was a press agent for Johnny Mathis and Anthony Quinn, all these people. And so one day I showed up, and I was the only one in the office. I said, "Where's everybody?" He said, "It's raining." I said, "Yeah, okay, so it's raining. So what? People don't go out when it rains. It's going to get sunny tomorrow. I might as well just stay home." And I've seen that my whole life out in Southern California. It rains. People just say, "Forget it. I'm going to pull up the blankets. I'm going back to bed. I'm not going to do it today." And even from home.
What probably happened. They probably canceled on being on the show today because they couldn't get themselves to change out of their pajamas. I mean, I think that's really what happened.
So you got 2 women to show up today here. I would have thought for sure this was a goner. It's raining.
Well, had I told them that you were going to be here, I don't know.
Well, that might have.
That would have been the
Glad
case.
You didn't do that here. So who did you bring with you?
Welcome, ladies, or sorry, ladies, whichever way you want to look at it.
Well, for the record, it's been a pleasure so far.
So far.
Do not encourage him, Rosemary.
So far. That's what I do. I go so far and then I cross the line. That's always it. Right?
Okay, but with that being said, yes, we've called Mr. Paul Roberts the warm-up act to the Raad Life. We've called him, the poster child for baby boomers. We've called the Raad Life his personal therapy session.
It is that many times. Yes.
We've had a bunch of things that we've called Mr. Paul Roberts, and this experience that you guys are about to embark on over the last 6 years. But one thing I do want to say again, because we are, as of actually this month. I mean, we conceived the show in February 6 years ago. I believe this month, around the 23rd of this month, is going to be the exact day that we launched the first show.
Wow.
With Casey Kasem's daughter, Carrie. A shout out to her. And I had no freaking clue what I was doing. And here we are 6 years later.
And they said it wouldn't last. Ha! They know, right?
Thank you, Sheri. Yeah.
Yeah,
thank you and not thank you. I don't know, but it's definitely been a journey and an experience. And
but that's what attracted us to this theme, Raad. I don't know. For 6 years, I still don't know if it's Raad or Raad. It's really Raad, but it's spelled Raad.
I've been guessing for 6 years.
So it's the Raad Life, but it's Raad. I have always been fascinated by people who live fascinating lives, and you seem to intersect with the most fascinating people. Sometimes there's sort of an overall theme. Sometimes we struggle to bring it back to the theme, but you always find a way to tie it into this universe. And after a while, people just say, "What is this show?" I said, "It's Raad's Life." It's Raad's life.
It's almost become an adjective for people
Yeah.
that I know.
Right.
I mean, I think even Rosemary did that a couple of days ago. Didn't you do that? Like you posted something, you're like, it's the Raad Life.
The Raad
And
Life.
And
Yeah.
so good, bad, or ugly, I'm stuck with it.
Explains it. Yeah.
And I actually just got personalized license plates that say it are Raad.
Did you really? So why not? Yeah, of course.
There's no escaping it now.
Yeah.
But just a real quick recap on the naming, since you brought it up, Paul, just for those who don't know, and I promise we'll get to the show, is that 6 years ago, when Paul Roberts had the misfortune of suggesting that I do a show, I went online, of course, because that's where I live, and I said, hey guys, I've got an opportunity to do a show, and what should it be called? And that was on a Friday, and by Sunday I had 181 suggestions, and people were already chastising me for not having chosen one.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so we ended up with the Raad Life,
right,
which I always can blame my audience on Facebook for being responsible for, because that's what it ended up being. But it has been really great, and it's allowed us an opportunity to really explore. We started off with a focus on baby boomers and sort of journey of aging,
right.
That a lot of people in that space, and we felt that those were topics that were very personal. People were not talking about them.
Certainly for me, that was the therapeutic part of the days of the show here. Yeah,
right.
We're all facing.
Let's keep the therapy session to a minimum today.
Okay.
Shall we? All right. So with that being said, we talked about a whole bunch of stuff, and some of the stuff was tough. Some of it was very liberating. A bunch of it was on core careers. How do you focus your energy and your expertise into later, adventures later in life? We talked about real stuff, which I'm grateful for, because here I am basically dealing with things with elder parents.
Yeah,
now
you're in the middle of it.
I had a chance to, at least on the periphery, explore prior. So what became the underlying current of the show, I think, at this point, is that we really don't shy away from conversations about things that are maybe tough, or we talk about things in manners that you don't usually get talked about. The format is very organic. We kind of go down the rabbit holes that come up during the conversation. And one of the things that I realized over the years that we do not do as society anymore is that we do not have conversations. We don't sit down and visit. No. When we get together because we have an agenda, we have a to-do list, we have a set goal or problem we have to solve. And unfortunately, what we lose in the process of that is the exploration component.
And discovery.
Is the discovery component. Right. And that applies, I think, across the board, whether it's personal relationships, whether it's business relationships, and especially in an environment that's very polarized right now and very
at home, alone. We're all alone.
Yeah,
We've turned into a tribe of one. Yeah.
So I'm hoping that the fact that we had to be forced into solitary confinement, if you will, over the course of the last year, gives us a new appreciation for what it means to actually come together and work towards a common cause. Because without that, we literally are islands upon ourselves, and we as human beings, I don't care what you think, are not genetically programmed to be non-social animals. And I think with that, I really want to introduce you guys and give you a chance to tell your own backgrounds and stories, because I find it fascinating how people find their way to doing things that are maybe greater than themselves sometimes, and where they bring part of their experience and seasoning to bear towards something that is for the good of others. And this is a perfect example, and it's very timely. I mean, in my day job, I do commercial interior design for hotels, resorts, spas, restaurants, and we all know from doing it at that level that it's not just a space where you go eat or you get a massage. It's a business concern. It has people in it. There's training components that are important. There's sophisticated leadership lessons that need to be learned along the way. And a lot of times those don't get offered. And with that being said, I want to introduce Rosemary and Sheri from GLEAM Network. And this is really part of what we're continuing to do right now, which is this COVID Chronicles. We've all been in this thing together for about a year, and we have been forced to look at things differently, apply ourselves differently. People have had a choice, really, honestly, in my opinion. Either have a bunker mentality or a growth mindset, whether that is a personal growth mindset or in your business or in your community, or you have a bunker mentality. And I think a lot of us basically, at least for a certain duration of time, did have to go through a bunker mentality, because this was a very shocking, jarring thing that we all experienced. But at some point we had to turn the corner. We had to basically come up with some sort of purpose for what we were doing, or reinvent what we could contribute to our own personal growth and those around us. And this is where this actually, I think, comes in very nicely, what you guys are involved with. So I'm going to turn the mics over to you guys. If you can introduce yourselves and
who do we start first?
Basically tell us about GLEAM Network and how it came about. And I think it's a very exciting venture that you guys are on. And I really would like to share this with everyone.
Who do we start with first? Who
Sheri, if you wouldn't mind starting us off.
Excellent. I'd love to. Well, we're excited to be here to talk about the GLEAM Network. We get really thrilled when somebody asks us to talk about what we love to do. And we are all volunteers. The GLEAM Network was created to take a place in time, which was a difficult situation with COVID, that was affecting an entire industry, which was the restaurant and food service industry, which we all come from. And our founder, Sanjeev Razdan, also like all of us, is a longtime executive in the restaurant and food service industry. And he looked around and said, people need help. And people need help on their personal and professional development now more than ever, during COVID, during shutdowns, during a pandemic situation where the restaurant industry was particularly hard hit. A lot of restaurants were closed completely. And then, of course, when they were reopened, it was only partially. So people were either furloughed and then terminated, or they were just kind of in limbo. And of course, some of the first things that would go in the concepts that had it were things like leadership development and mentoring. And at a time that people most needed it, they had even less access to it. So when Sanjeev put together this group, he literally posted it on LinkedIn and said, I want to get together a group of volunteers to follow this passion I have to be able to make leadership development and networking accessible to everyone. And we also know, because many of us have worked in big companies, it was often at a certain level that you got access to those kinds of things. You didn't get to go to the cool conferences unless you were at a certain level. You didn't get to have the leadership development. You basically just did your job. And so his passion was around making it accessible to the underserved in our industry, and doing it at a time when people really were hurting and needed to have somebody with experience who'd been in the industry for a long time who was going to volunteer to give back and support them in a time of need.
Sheri, let me just ask you this question, because it's fascinating when you stop and think about it. That kind of skill development or personal development on your career path, you're right, what only was available for people once they have achieved a certain level. And I always found it very fascinating that, especially in a hospitality environment, especially in a food and beverage environment, where you are really dependent on every single touch point that basically comes in contact with your customer as being that ambassador representation, that you did not provide that for those people that are in the front lines. I mean, it was fascinating to me that it was almost dealt with as a benefit or a reward versus a necessity of business. And here comes COVID. And just to step back for a minute, anybody who has even the slightest knowledge of food and beverage or a lot of some of these customer service based businesses, the margins are very tight. You know, the costs are high, margins are tight. You start getting furloughed, you start getting on hold, you start having non-ability to serve inside your place of business. It really hits you hard. There's not a lot of cushion to carry you. And that's what kind of happened. And there were really challenges happening in the economy to begin with. Like COVID, here comes COVID, and it hits hard, it accelerates the process. And I go back to like 2016 when the administration changed hands, and there was this whole conversation, not relevant to food and beverage, but relevant to people being in industries that were extinct or dying, and the need to basically develop skill sets and retrain people into future industries that had future prospects. And the first thing that the administration did, almost the first thing, is they cut the training programs. Which I found to be absolutely like the antithesis of what you shouldn't do, right, in the situation. So here we are, and these industries are hit hard. I mean, one of the other industries that I service is like, salons, spas, hair salons, nail salons. those all took a hit exactly the same. They didn't have a chance to doing their services outside, that venture restaurants did. So I want you to give people a little bit of background about yourself, because I think that is amazing that an organization of this nature has been able to pull on people that have such a depth of experience to bring to bear to this.
Well, my experience has been in the restaurant and food service industry, and I love this industry. I'm a 4-time CEO of restaurant chains in the category we call fast casual.
Yep.
Between fast food and full service dining, as you know. And my path to the C-suite was up through operations. So I served in P&L roles and worked with companies like Taco Bell and Seattle Coffee Company, and came up through the ranks through operations. And I will tell you, my first management position was a little unusual. I ran a 1,900 bed hotel on the top of the Alaska pipeline.
What?
And not too traditional. And so all union operation, where all of the oil field workers lived when they were building the Trans-Alaska pipeline.
Yeah.
And so that's where I got my love of the hospitality industry early on. And I can also remember putting myself through college in the early days. My early morning job that I could do to carry my full school schedule was prepping and serving breakfast at a nursing home at 5 o'clock in the morning, so I could get time to get to my classes. And so long time in this industry, love this industry, and really have seen the opportunities that are available to you if you avail yourself of them. And certainly we're the second largest employer in the country in the restaurant industry. So many people that have an opportunity to be impacted.
Yeah.
Many people, it's their first job. Many people, it's a career. And really what we're doing with GLEAM is we want to reach out to those people that are the underserved and also the underrepresented. In our industry, a lot of women in the industry, a lot of minorities. And so we certainly want to focus on providing these opportunities for leadership development to folks that may not otherwise have a chance to climb that career ladder. And we all know how important a mentor is. We probably all say we wish we'd had them earlier, so we didn't have to go through the school of hard knocks. But definitely providing a mentor and this kind of development to people in their careers is something that we're pretty passionate about, and it's because we've been in this industry and we've seen the great opportunities that can be provided.
So
Sheri, what was it that, because I'm assuming, and I think Rosemary may have shared this with me already, but you were kind of either retired or semi-retired. What was it about GLEAM that actually pulled you out of that? What was it that made you want to contribute to this particular network?
Sure. Well, I am actually a free agent CEO and have been doing board work. And what really called to me about GLEAM was this opportunity to give back directly into our industry. And knowing that it had been my career of choice and seeing so many great people along the way and realizing that not everybody got to the level that I had attained, it really gave me the chance when I saw Sanjeev's posting on LinkedIn, which was where so many of us saw it. And I said, put me in. I absolutely am excited about volunteering. And I reached out and said, how can I help? And as it turns out now, I serve as a board member and I also lead all of our mentoring programs. And it's just been so satisfying to work with an all volunteer team and people that share the same passion around helping other people and giving back in this great industry.
So can we bring
Rosemary? I want to ask you the same question.
Yeah,
what
let's bring Rosemary in.
Yeah, give people a little bit of background about you, because I know you and I know your background is a little bit different. Although, Sheri, thank you for making the connection, by the way, before I turn to Rosemary, between the hotel side of things and even a nursing home. Like, people, I think, forget that all those layers actually fall under the idea of hospitality. I have to constantly remind people that the word hospitality comes from the word hospital, that comes from the hospitalers, that were basically the places where the pilgrims to the Holy Land stayed on the way to the pilgrims to the Holy Land, and then, the Knights Templars and all that good stuff and all swords and whatever. But the point is that whether, and I'm working on like an 80,000 square foot, 3-story, 122 bed memory care right now, and bringing in 20 years of hospitality experience in how that basically gets done, and how through design you encourage mobility that's independently driven, you encourage, memory and relocation. Those are things that we bring with us in order to make the environment hospitable. So whether it's a restaurant, whether it's so thank you so much for making that connection when you were talking, because I think it is important. And then with that, I'm going to turn to Rosemary, because that's kind of fits into where you're coming from and what your background is. Rosemary, you're on.
Well, I saw a post on LinkedIn, much like many other people that joined GLEAM, and this is how quickly and how powerfully the word and the vision of GLEAM Network spread, is that I knew someone who knew someone who knew someone who knew Sanjeev. And so I saw her post, and she had posted that she had signed on as a mentor. And I thought, this looks really interesting. So I did some research. I did some research on Sanjeev. You know me, I have a very forward personality. So I just reached out to Sanjeev directly, and I said, hey, Sanjeev, nice to meet you. Love to know more about GLEAM, and let's see, if it's a fit for me to get involved. I had a conversation with him, and I loved the vision of it and what they were doing and how they were impacting an industry that has really given me so much in my career. And
so talk about a little bit of that background, Rosemary,
yeah,
because I think it gives perspective to people that are hearing you.
So, I've been in marketing for almost 20 years now, and I started my marketing career in the music industry, but I had a career pivot early on in life. So what most people don't know is I started my career as a certified pastry chef, and then I became an executive chef at the ripe age of 24 years old. So at 24 years old, I was running a team of 40 plus. You talk about underserved communities. I had a team of 4 males under me. For some reason, this particular organization did not hire too many females. They were servers only, no one in the kitchens. So I had a team of 44 males under me. And after a year of working 15 hours a day, I needed to kind of throw in my apron and do private catering. Mm-hmm. Before I had a burnout before the age of 25 years old, and I recognized that. So being that I was in the LA market, I had a lot of Hollywood Hills celebrity clientele. So I started private catering, and that's how I got into the music industry, because I teamed up with a gentleman who had a group of live music venues mm-hmm. that I would book events and cater them for. And then I recognized that his venues needed some love. I had no idea what PR campaigns were, marketing campaigns, but I brought life to them. I created these really unique events. I created partnerships with all the record labels. 3 years in, I decided music industry was not for me, and I made the move to Miami. And I naturally went back to an industry that I loved, which was the restaurant industry. Mm-hmm. And early on in my career, I started my culinary career in New York City. So I had the fortune of working with Drew Nearport. So I worked with Tribeca Grill and Nobu, and I got to hang out with chefs like David Burke. And, at 19, 20 years old, going to these restaurant openings with these rock star chefs, I thought I was the coolest person in the world and the luckiest person in the world. And I just fell in love with the hospitality industry. So now in my own firm, we spend a lot of time in the hospitality space. We also focus on technology that surrounds the hospitality space as well.
Yeah, and so it's a nice real range of experience that you guys are bringing to GLEAM. And in the course of the mentorship program, and Sheri, if you can tell us a little bit more about that here in a minute, I think it provides for opportunities for people to maybe not just even grow within their own, sphere of work right now or skill set, but it also opens up opportunities for them to consider maybe other possibilities within the same industry. And I think that's really kind of critical, because like just with what Rosemary mentioned, you start down a path and a journey in one direction. And then if you're open to receive, you find yourself maybe in a situation where the road leads you in areas that are both exciting and challenging, and it pushes you to excel, and you find things about yourself as part of that journey that really make it even multi-layered meaningful, I find. So the fact that you have mentors that are diverse and multifaceted versus ones that are just going to sit down and deal with one thing. We're going to talk about the menu development, or we're going to talk about, I think that really makes for a very rich environment. So it sounds really, really like people are very fortunate to have the likes of you involved with this network, because it doesn't also happen a lot, to be honest with you. It tends to be very task-oriented sometimes. So let's talk about the mentorship programs a little bit more, Sheri. So share a little bit of that with us.
Sure. So we have already, in less than a year, we're a startup nonprofit. So it's always amazing to us to think about, with all volunteer teams, how much we've been able to accomplish in less than a year. So as it relates to the mentor programs, we have already over 200 people that have participated as mentors and mentees. And we have 3 different programs. We have an industry student mentor program that's focused on those that are pursuing a career through college education. And that's a program that we have currently that we've just finished a pilot of. And then we have 2 what we'll call traditional programs. One is for the group we call emerging leaders, which are people that are in the restaurant and food service industry that are either at the restaurant support center or headquarters as professionals or managers early in their careers, or they're out in the field, as we call it, and they're above restaurant leaders, so area managers or area directors, in those kinds of levels of multi-unit leadership. And so they're the ones that would be served by our emerging leader program. And then we also have an executive program, because we're trying very hard to continue to expand the numbers the higher you go up in the funnel. On the career ladder. And so we've got a program for emerging executives, which would be directors and above, maybe vice presidents. Maybe they're already in the C-suite, but they want to attain the highest level. And so those folks are mentored by executives in the industry today who are giving back their time to be mentors. And we've really been able to put together a program that I think is very compelling. It's a 6-month program. We ask that people commit an hour a month, but being from the restaurant and food service industry, we're all overachievers. So we know that our mentors and our mentees give it much more than an hour a month, but it's really driven by the mentee. They lead the time, they lead the schedule, they lead the topics, and we ask them to come up with something we call the one big thing, so we can make sure that as true restaurateurs and leaders that we're focusing on something that has quantifiable and measurable results. And we really want to make sure that our mentees are focused on something that they really want to accomplish.
Well, and quantifiable and measurable is huge. I mean, I've been involved in a lot of nonprofits, and I think just from a practicality perspective, if you focus on that is from the beginning and you put in the tools and benchmarks to achieve that ability, then you are better suited to grow your programs, because without that quantifiable, measurable thing, just like in business, I mean, you can't really, you can claim all you want, but at some point somebody's going to call you on it and say, well, show me what your positive impact is. Show me what your social impact is. You are a nonprofit that's been around for a year, so technically you may not have a lot of success stories that are already out there and applying, that's coming, that's built into the system, but you have to have something that you can basically point people to, especially including, actually I should say, people that you're asking to be part of the mentorship program. So that's really a smart way to basically structure it. Are you looking for any particular skill sets? I know you've got a program that's already going on. You got one that's coming up that's launching. Do you have any particular needs relevant to the mentorship, or people with certain skill sets or backgrounds that we want to basically make sure we mention here?
It's a great question. Actually, as you said earlier, the fact is, with a mentor, you can also explore things that maybe you haven't had in your past. So the more well-rounded individuals are as mentors, the better. The longer experience they have in the industry. The fun thing about it is that we have such diverse individuals, and their experiences are so diverse. And just listening to just Rosemary and I, our paths to get to where we are have been quite different. And so what we've found is, by having our leaders coming in from all over the restaurant and food service industry, we're really able to fit most functional needs. So we'll have a cadre of people who come from operations, or a cadre of people who come from culinary backgrounds. And what we found is that it's really great to match these mentees with some very experienced mentors that will push them, and to your point, will also help them work against something that is really actionable. You know, we use SMART goals and we focus on that one big thing, so that at the end of the 6 months, people can say, wow, I really was able to accomplish what I set out to do. Because a mentor will also help push and guide and stretch those mentees, and help them to think perhaps in new ways about their abilities and their experiences, and what they can bring to bear in the future.
Well, I will offer this right here on the air. Like, I think, and again, sometimes it's kind of funny that I have to remind people of this, is these services occur in a physical environment. Okay, they actually take place in a physical place. You know, yes, there's deliveries, and that's in the growing sector of the business, what have you. Especially in even prior to COVID, there were certain things. I tell people my background prior to interior design is I have an undergrad in economics and a master's in marketing at the Drucker Center. So it tends to be a right brain, left brain. It tends to be very quantifiable, measurable. It has to be a return on investment, ROIs, revenue maximization, you name it, right? And people are like, well, what's that got to do with color? It's like, we'll get there, but this has to be built in as well, right? Because if you're not factoring this in, and then you're building a stage upon which to perform your business that allows you to succeed, you're wasting money and time and energy. Go find yourself a fishing pole and go by the water. I mean, like, there's other ways to spend time. So I have to always remind people that these things have to take place in an environment that's tailored to allow for the success to happen. You can have all the training in the world, you can have all the promotional marketing material in the world, but if there's no consistency from a brand and unique value proposition that you are offering to be competitive from day one touch point all the way through to follow up and return business, you are missing a lot of opportunities along the way that your competitor will basically take you down for. And if you're a small business or you're a multi-chain business, it doesn't matter. The degree of sophistication is necessary regardless. If it's your mom and pop place or it's the 12th one that you're opening out of a chain in a region. One of the things that what I'm saying right now is I'm offering that if there is a value in that, and I think after COVID, it's actually even more critically important, because now you layer onto it things like, does the fact that I have invested in a quantifiable, measurable air purification system that I can say fully supported by data that captures 99% of particles, will that make for a more safe environment that somebody feels trustworthy for them to come in and spend their time and spend their money? Is that going to be a competitive edge to somebody who doesn't do that? Water quality, the fact that, I see restaurants that are 5-star that are putting up, plexiglass, or not even plexiglass, corrugated plastic from Home Depot as separation screens, depletes and dilutes their brand and standing in the market. And yet it doesn't have to be that way. There's smart things that need to happen. And even though we are all getting vaccinated, the truth of the matter is purchasing habits, the way we interact with physical environments will continue to be with us at least until the end of this year. And and right now, as businesses are being given an opportunity to open up, these things, starting with how do I make people trust that they can come in and my place is safe, are as critical to the business succeeding than anything else that we put in there. So I'm offering, if there's value that you guys see in basically bringing this layer in as part of that mentorship component, it may not be for maybe line workers, but it may be at a little bit of a middle management and upper management level. By all means, please just reach out to me. I'm more than happy to do that. I think the industry and what I do from my side of it, having such a much more positive impact on what we bring to the table, I think we have an opportunity right now to do that.
Well, thank you so much. That is just incredible. And, I have a saying, you can never know too many fabulous people. And it really is true that especially in our business, it really is a people business. And it's so much about people who want to help and who want to partner and who are focused on the same thing, which is continuing to drive success. And in the case of the restaurant and hospitality industry, creating places where people will feel comfortable will want to come in over and over. And of course, we know that the industry is probably one of the most safe and sanitary there is out there, because we've always lived in a world of having to comply with health department requirements. And so we're more safe and sanitary than a lot of places are from the start. But certainly coming through COVID with all of the additional things that the restaurants industry has taken on to be even more safe has helped. But I just really appreciate the offer, and thank you so much.
No, absolutely, Sheri. I mean, I honestly believe that it is an important factor that sometimes gets missed. I mean, I'm not picking on the restaurant industry at all. Rosemary will tell you this happens in the hospitality industry all the time, you know, where these decisions are made, but you have opportunities that should you even just stretch out beyond your immediate task-oriented, I got to get this thing done. You have the ability to capture much more usage, much more revenue generation, what have you. It happens in the spa industry all the time. Like, you know, they do trainings and products, and so much energy is put into that. And even, you know, front desk and answering the phone, whatever. And I'm like, you're not doing it in a vacuum. You're doing it in an environment. And we have been out of those environments for the better part of a year. We are now about to go back into those environments. If you think that you're going to be able to conduct your business the same way you conducted your business when you stopped doing this a year ago, you really should think twice, because those who are still around that are competitors of yours, they're hungry, they're lean, they're going to be creative. They have basically gone beyond survive and now looking out to how to thrive. And they're going to use everything in their power to get that edge on you. And you need to be aware of that. Serving good food, doing it in a safe environment, doing it with cleanliness, those are givens. Those are not the edges that you need. And Rosemary can speak to this way even better than I am, because now we're talking about marketing, PR, differentiation of product, you know, in a tight market, in a competitive market where everybody now got less discretionary spending. I mean, that has to be part of that mentorship as well, because if you're training people to be sophisticated in how to basically not only survive, but thrive, those are weapons that you got to arm them with.
But you brought up a good point, Raad. It's the restaurant industry has evolved so much. If you looked at what's going on in the technology space, in the supplier space, in the delivery space. So, you know, when we look for both mentors and mentees, as Sheri said, we really do look for well-rounded individuals that could help our mentees come up the ladder, because we've just evolved so much and we've grown so much. You know, we've come a long way of just, you serve good food and that's it. It goes into the technology, it goes into the marketing, it goes into the verbiage, it goes to your outreach, you know, and how quickly you want to grow. And also, especially as we hit the Black Lives Matters movement, you know, in early 2020, it's also your diversity, your inclusion, you know, who are you bringing up the ranks in your company?
Well, and how that's going to reflect
your company.
And how that's going to reflect on how you are perceived.
Yeah.
I mean, like it or not, we live in a visual world, right? I mean, I remember, Rosemary knows this, when March came around last year, I basically said, okay, I'm not going to go sell somebody on a house portal furniture or tell somebody that is barely opening their doors, hey, let's remodel your space. If they got deep pockets, they're taking advantage of that downtime and doing that. But it's not like, things have changed. So I basically tried to find ways to be relevant. So we started doing this show a lot more. We started developing other people's shows, giving them a voice. And I set up a mask company. And of course, masks last year was a controversial issue. I mean, you know, if you wore the mask around the wrong person, you could get slugged, right? And if you didn't wear it around the right person, they would basically accuse you for why didn't you care enough about them? So it was a controversial issue. We did masks. We did them as a custom tailored opportunity because we wanted to channel people that were in the custom tailored business that were not working and give them a different product to do, right? It was a complete departure from what I had been selling for 20 years, which is proposals. Now I had a widget that I was basically selling and a product that I was selling. And what happened with that is it opened up another opportunity to talk about things. I ended up teaming up with people that I would have never had a connection with, that were on the local level, whether it's municipality or local government, policy kind of thing, right? Some of them I was actually even at odds with a year prior on something. So we found common ground. The reason why I'm mentioning this is when it came to restaurants or clients that I was advising, and we were already in the midst of it, I basically said, look, I may have a different take on why you should wear a mask and that it's a responsible action that you take or not. But here's the truth. The truth is, if you want people to come into your business, people that are scared and worried about their safety, You got to find ways to basically indicate as quickly as possible and possibly visually, immediately, without even saying a word, that you care and this is safe. So put on a friggin' mask, whether you believe in it or not, because the impression that you are going to give is one that is going to be positive for that person that's worried and doesn't want to leave the house. So we have to also be very cognizant, to Rosemary's point, that we live in this environment that not only is visual, it's viral, it's quick moving, you have to be fast on your feet, and whether you're that person that is dealing with a situation that just occurred in your restaurant or your place of business from a customer that's dissatisfied, or an interaction between two people that have a different point of view on masks, or if you're in a management position and you have to like literally pivot that week because something happened that you have to react to, those situations are either challenges or they are opportunities. They could actually totally launch your business as being in the spotlight in the positive way if you are actually sophisticated enough to recognize it. So those muscles are, I think, something that sometimes in the service industries, we fall into this quagmire of, well, this is what we have done for the last 20 years. Guess what? We can't afford that anymore coming out of COVID.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But I also think as we go through this and we're developing leaders, and not that we want people to leave the hospitality industry or the restaurant industry, but this sets the standard for a lot of other careers in your
Absolutely.
job. You know, you start off, I always say, just like some countries make you go to the army make you serve in the army for a year, everyone should work in the hospitality and restaurant industry for at least a year of their lives, because it teaches you how to take care of clients better. It teaches you how to develop leaders better. It teaches you how to engage with strangers better, which is something, a trait that I think we've all kind of lost a little bit in the age of technology, but it really teaches you how to constantly engage and making sure that everyone around you is having a good time or having a great experience and developing experiences. And that could excel you in life, later in life, so much.
Yeah, we're getting close to the hour, guys, and you sent me something, Rosemary, that said, moment never to be forgotten in your notes, and you were talking about, Sanjeev and everyone needs a mentor and all this stuff. I want you guys to take the last few minutes that we have and genuinely just share where you see this organization going. Where do you see the future of this? I mean, you're launching mentorship programs. You touched on it a little bit, Rosemary, just now. Like, the impact that this is going to have is not limited to the food and beverage industry. You are developing. I hate to use the word leader because it assumes that they have to be a head of an organization. You're developing people into being more full-rounded, regardless what they pursue. And that is a gift that they will take with them, regardless whether they're in their food and beverage or not. And I can see it from the two of you just interacting with you guys via Zoom, that is part of what encourages you to be involved in this. So talk about what your future, either aspirations or what you already guys know is coming through GLEAM that you would like to share with everybody.
Yeah, so Sheri, I'm going to start off and then I'm going to have you jump in, but we have some pretty bold goals. One, we do want to be global. So right now we're US, Canada only, but we're launching our first India chapter beginning of Q2. We have just launched a tech platform, which at the very beginning of GLEAM, as we were a baby startup, we hand match mentors and mentees pretty much over a kitchen table, but we just launched a technology platform with built-in AI that automatically matches our mentors and mentees. So, we'll increase it for each quarter that we launch a new program, but we want to be at 500 mentors and mentees by the end of the year. And bringing on some more sponsors and partners to help us grow. We have some great partners already. We have Bluestone Lane Coffee, which they've just been wonderful, and they've actually teamed up with us to help build their own diversity program, which they've spent a lot of effort, energy, and money into. Yeah. We have this wonderful company called Pop Menu, and they've just built this. They're in the process of building a whole tech platform website for us, all pro bono. And they didn't even want to hear sponsorship, like what they were going to get out of it. They just said, I'll do it, whatever you need. And so we're really looking for more partners to help us grow globally. And then Sheri, I'll let you talk about the future programs.
Sure. Well, you mentioned about our mentoring technology platform that we're just adopting, which will help us to be able to scale the program. And we're looking at bringing on specific programs, mentoring programs for women, for people of color, again, as we try to address the gaps in a lot of our underserved and underrepresented communities. We want to provide programming specifically for them. So we think that'll help. We also do a program that we call learning circles. Whereas our mentoring programs are one-to-one, we do learning circles with subject matter experts in our industry who will come and do a session for 10 or a dozen or 15 people, small group discussion session for 75 minutes, and give people access to executives and leaders in our industry around specific topics, which is also the kind of things that a lot of our mentoring participants have said they're areas that they want to focus on or get more experience in. So we use the learning circles. And we're just about to kick off a program this summer that is a career acceleration program that's focused on our hourly employees. Again, we want to continue to help people at the earliest parts of their careers to get in and be successful and move up the ladder if that's what they want to do by providing these various programs.
Well, I'll say this, ladies. I think you may have started in this is just a feeling, but I think you may have started this in the food and beverage sector, but I honestly see how its applicability can go way beyond, at least in the hospitality sector and all the layers that are involved. I think you could even expand this in terms of mentorship, and if the idea is to be sort of more wide and layered in terms of the quality of your mentors, I think that kind of stuff, you have it in like things like SCORE, you have it in some of these organizations that are out there that provide it, but the fact that it's anchored around an industry, it's anchored around sort of a fellowship, if you will, right? I think makes it very strong versus it's just wide open. But I honestly believe this could easily go beyond food and beverage. It could go into guest room services, it could go into back of house, front desk, it could go into, amenity services. And we all know this, right? And maybe the industry doesn't admit it as openly because I don't know why. Okay. I mean, I think we are ready, to be honest, and maybe even out of necessity need to look at a disruptive approach. And when I say disruptive approach, meaning one that will provide us with alternative ways of doing things that may be more productive, that may be more efficient, that may actually be more fulfilling for everybody involved, including the people that are working. I mean, at the end of the day, we started by saying every single person you get in contact with in any hospitality environment, restaurants or otherwise, that is an ambassador for not just the business, that's the ambassador for the culture that that business represents. And if that is not part of what is instinctive for them, what's the old saying, you are the weakest link, you are the weakest link, and the system suffers. But yet human beings, when they're given an opportunity to grow in their own personal skill set, in their own sense of self, they bring that to what they are doing in every aspect, right? And so I really am appreciative that you guys spend the time because, like Paul, I had some idea of what GLEAM Network was, but I didn't really know a lot. And I'm really excited. I think this is going to have a very positive impact on a lot of people, including the people that are mentoring. It's not just for, I tell people when you volunteer, that's the biggest reward you get out of something. And it's a reward that no amount of monetary, reward will give you. It's a different kind of reward. It feeds your soul in a different manner. Feed your soul, food and beverage. Okay, that was kind of a slip, but right. But
Raad, I'm going to add in onto your point because
Yeah.
I actually joined the organization as a mentor. I thought, okay, I'm going to do good for someone. I'm going to mentor them. But quickly, I realized that it had been my benefit, probably more than my mentees. And then I got even more involved in the program because of Sheri. Sheri called me up and said, hey, with your talents, can you help me do this? And I quickly jumped on board after working with Sheri. And she's such an amazing leader. And if you go into her committee meetings and take part of it, she just keeps everyone energized and really creates this community around how do you support each other. So we're not in this alone. We're here for something better, but we have each other to help create that something better. And so Sheri created this amazing probably organization within the organization with her committees. And then I was just addicted. And then I started working on the marketing committee as well. And, you know, I've gotten so much more out of it than just being a mentor. So you're right. As you come in, I'm so thankful for Sheri and Sanjeev and the entire committees I get to work side by side with on a daily basis, especially in a time of COVID, which, as we touched on earlier, you are kind of locked in your home. So within this organization, all the committee leads and the committees and the members and the volunteers, you built a family. You really did. You know, in fact, Sheri always refers to it as, you know, your GLEAM brothers and sisters that you could support each other on and count on. And that's really what she's created, and the entire team is created within the organization.
Well, and relationships that we are building through COVID, I mean, just by the nature of them being different, right? These are relationships that are not 9 to 5. They're not relationships where, you know, you're working weekends. These are genuinely unconventional in the sort of their structure. And so it's an exciting time and sort of unpredictable what the benefits could be. I mean, it's really fascinating that we work in a way that's totally different, right? We work remotely. That has a benefit on certain levels, but we also understand and maybe appreciate more the need for in-person now than we ever did, right? Oh my God, I have to have another meeting to go to. Well, now it's like, I look forward to actually interacting with people, but I also don't want to have it be my life every single minute, right? So balance is important. All of these things are really interesting. And then what I'm getting from you guys, which I think is a very great bonus for mentorship, is inspiration. I mean, if you can inspire a person to actually, through the course of mentoring, I used to teach design classes, and I got to tell you, I missed the heck out of that, because you really have an opportunity not only to test truthfully, not only your knowledge, but your ability to convey it to other people, right? Which makes it a living thing that goes on beyond you. It's bigger than who you are. But at the same time, the ability to be both inspired by and inspire others, okay, is a huge thing that you gift each other with that goes beyond the subject matter itself. It's the underlying inspiration. It's the curiosity for finding out more, for building your skills. And that's what I'm getting from you guys through this organization. And I really appreciate it because it's rare. It really is. It tends to be more task-oriented. This is more inspiration-oriented. So I thank you for letting me gleam what GLEAM is all about.
Well, we're still taking applications for the next week and a half, correct, Sheri?
That's correct, till the 12th.
Until March 12th for our upcoming cohort. So we are taking applications for both volunteer mentors and mentees for our emerging leader program and our executive program. So if you're interested, go on to our website at gleamnetwork.net and sign up. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and all that information. I mean, it's a great website. There's a lot of information on there. I encourage people to. I mean, we all know people in the industry, and you know, if they are they have nothing better to do with their time than listen to the show, then maybe, you know, they can actually look into this and give of themselves, or encourage people that they know that could use the benefit of having that mentorship. Because again, the fact that we are doing it remotely, the fact that it's sort of, we have become so accustomed to Zoom to the point where, you know, where some of us are Zoombies, you know, during the course of the day. This takes away the scalability. I mean, have you noticed, guys, like a lot of the stuff we do now, we used to worry about how do we infrastructure-wise build this scalability of this? Like, we have something really good, but how do we get it to more people? Well, because of this sort of challenge of having to basically work remotely and get so accustomed to Zoom, we now can take something like this and have it really have a wide-ranging impact, both in terms of mentors that get involved. There's no limitation to physicality. I don't have to worry about geography anymore as far as limitations. I can have somebody, you know, from the Netherlands mentoring somebody from India. I mean, there's no limitations anymore. And you have the ability to also build customized training for people. It's not about, I got to find somebody who's good at front of house that happens to be in the area where this particular person needs to be mentored. No, it can be anywhere. Just figure out the time zones. That's all you have to do. So it's really an exciting time for something like this. I'm really grateful that you guys shared it with us, and thank you for taking the time to be here. And again, I will restate that if you feel like there's any benefit for the skill sets that I may be able to bring this, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to participate in this. It's really exciting.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Absolutely. And thank you for having us on today. It's been
my pleasure.
Great to chat with you, Raad.
Yeah. Always great, Rosemary, to connect, and keep doing the good work, ladies. And Sheri, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm sure we will be in touch again.
We'll look forward to that. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies. Thanks, Paul, for letting us run over as usual.
Bye, Paul.
Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Great stuff.
Bye-bye.
Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.